Have you ever wondered how much money you really need to invest to live off dividends? The answer might surprise you because it's actually less than you think. I've spent a lot of time watching videos and reading blogs on how to live off dividends, and sadly, many of them leave out important details. Things like inflation and taxes are often ignored. Plus, some information out there is just plain wrong. So why would anyone want to live off dividends in the first place? Well, here's something to think about. In 2021, the average retirement age for men was 65. This means if you start working around the age of 20, you'll need to work for about 45 years before you can retire. That's a long time. Most people work their whole lives just hoping to enjoy a few good years in retirement. If you're like me, the idea of working 45 years just to retire doesn't sound very exciting. For many people, the goal of investing in dividends is to one day live off the income those dividends provide. Personally, I'd love to reach that point way before I turn 65. Sure, there are other ways to make passive income, like owning rental properties or writing a book. But nothing is as straightforward and simple as dividend income, where money just shows up in your bank account without much effort on your part. It's a one-time investment, and you can keep getting dividend payments for life. Imagine this, having enough dividend income to retire early, or maybe even just work a part-time job that you actually enjoy. Dividend income gives you control over your time, instead of being stuck at a job you hate. But the problem many people have with dividend investing is the belief that they need millions of dollars to make it work. And I get it, that's what a lot of videos and blogs will tell you. Let's take a look at a common example. When people figure out how to live off dividends, they usually start by looking at how much they need to cover their living costs. So let's say you need about $4,000 a month to cover your living expenses. That means you need $48,000 a year to live off dividends. Now, let's take a popular dividend stock like Johnson & Johnson. Right now, their stock price is about $162.60 per share, and they offer a dividend yield of around 2.96%. If you plug in those numbers, you'd need to invest over $1.6 million to cover your $48,000 annual expenses. For most people, having $1.6 million to invest isn't realistic. That's why many people think dividend investing is out of reach. But I'm here to tell you that you don't need anywhere near that much money to make it work. To find out how much you really need, let's break it down. The first mistake people make when figuring out how to live off dividends is not considering inflation and taxes. Inflation, which is the rising cost of living, is something we can't ignore. So let's say your living expenses are $4,000 a month today. With inflation averaging around 2% per year, in 30 years, your monthly living costs will rise to about $7,250. Now, we want our monthly dividend income to be higher than our living expenses and stay there, even as costs go up over time. In the Johnson & Johnson example, you'd need over $1.6 million to start living off dividends right away. But since most people don't have that kind of money just lying around, they invest a little bit each month instead. So let's say you start investing $1,000 every month into dividend stocks. If we invest in high-yield stocks which pay higher dividends, we might expect a price growth of around 2% a year and a starting dividend yield of 7.5%. Let's see what happens if you don't reinvest your dividends. After 30 years of investing $1,000 a month, your monthly dividend payments would be about $1,691. But your monthly living expenses would be $7,245 due to inflation, so you wouldn't be able to live off your dividends. What if you reinvest all your dividends instead? Well, if you do that, your monthly dividend income would increase to about $4,400 by the end of 30 years, which is better, but still not enough to cover your living costs. So let's try a different approach: dividend growth investing. This strategy focuses on stocks that not only pay dividends, but also increase the amount they pay over time. In this case, we might expect a price growth rate of 7%, a dividend growth rate of 9%, and a starting dividend yield of around 3.5%. If you don't reinvest your dividends, your dividend income will grow slowly at first, but pick up speed in the later years. After 30 years, you'd be making about $6,000 a month in dividends. But again, your living expenses will have risen to about $7,245, so you're still not quite there. But what if you reinvest your dividends with this strategy? For the first time, we see something amazing happen. At some point, your dividend payments surpass your living expenses. This happens around the 23rd year of investing, where your monthly dividend income goes above your monthly cost of living. And here's the best part. You would only need to invest a total of $283,000 over those 30 years, which is way less than the $1.6 million we talked about earlier. By choosing dividend growth stocks that increase their payments each year and reinvesting those dividends, you can reach financial freedom faster than you might think. The dividend snowball effect also comes into play. As your dividends grow, they are reinvested and the snowball keeps getting bigger, generating even more returns as time goes on. The larger the snowball gets, the faster it grows, helping you reach your financial goals even sooner. But there's one more thing to consider: taxes. It's hard to give an exact number because how much you pay in taxes on your dividends depends on a lot of factors. Things like where you live, your income level, and whether your dividends are qualified or not all play a role. And if you invest through tax-advantaged accounts, it can change the amount of taxes you pay. You should engage with a tax professional or financial planner if you need more detailed tax information on how this would impact you specifically. While that might sound a little discouraging, keep in mind that as your income grows over time, you can contribute more to your portfolio. This will help speed up the process of living off your dividend income. For example, I'm currently planning to be able to live off my dividends in about 17 years. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.